When Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl premiered in 2003, few people expected it to become one of the defining adventure films of the 21st century. Inspired by a Disney theme park attraction, the project seemed like a risky investment. What transformed it into a worldwide phenomenon was not only its thrilling story and spectacular visuals, but also an exceptional cast whose performances elevated the material far beyond expectations. The chemistry between the actors, combined with their individual talents and unique interpretations of their characters, created unforgettable personalities that continue to influence popular culture decades later. The most iconic performance belongs to Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow. Before taking on the role, Depp had already established himself as one of Hollywood's most versatile and unconventional actors. During the late 1980s, he gained recognition through the television series 21 Jump Street, but he quickly distanced himself from the image of a traditional heartthrob. Throughout the 1990s, he chose eccentric and artistically ambitious projects, collaborating several times with director Tim Burton in films such as Edward Scissorhands, Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory would follow later. He also starred in acclaimed films like Donnie Brasco, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Blow, and From Hell. Rather than pursuing conventional leading man roles, Depp consistently sought complex, unusual, and unpredictable characters. His portrayal of Captain Jack Sparrow completely redefined what audiences expected from a pirate hero. Instead of creating a fearless, swashbuckling captain in the tradition of classic adventure films, Depp introduced a character who appeared constantly intoxicated, walked with an unsteady balance, spoke in an unpredictable rhythm, and relied more on wit than physical strength. Depp famously drew inspiration from rock guitarist Keith Richards, imagining Jack Sparrow as a pirate who treated every day as though it might be his last. Many Disney executives initially worried that the performance was too strange and feared audiences would reject it. Instead, it became the defining element of the entire franchise. The role transformed Depp's career dramatically. While he had always been respected as a talented actor, Pirates of the Caribbean elevated him into one of the biggest international movie stars of his generation. His performance earned him his first Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, an extraordinary achievement for a fantasy adventure film. The success also opened the door to multiple sequels and firmly established Captain Jack Sparrow as one of cinema's most recognizable fictional characters. Opposite Depp stood Orlando Bloom as Will Turner. Bloom entered the project after gaining worldwide attention as Legolas in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. His portrayal of the skilled elf had already introduced audiences to his athletic screen presence and natural charisma. Pirates allowed him to showcase a different kind of hero. Will Turner is grounded, honorable, disciplined, and emotionally sincere, providing the perfect contrast to Jack Sparrow's chaotic personality. Bloom brought classical heroism to the role. His background in stage performance and physical training helped him perform many demanding sword-fighting sequences convincingly. Throughout the film, Will develops from a humble blacksmith into a courageous adventurer willing to challenge pirates, cursed sailors, and even the British Navy to save the woman he loves. Bloom's performance gave audiences a relatable protagonist whose moral compass balanced the unpredictable nature of the other characters. The enormous success of both The Lord of the Rings and Pirates of the Caribbean within a very short period made Orlando Bloom one of Hollywood's most sought-after young actors during the early 2000s. He later appeared in Kingdom of Heaven, Troy, Elizabethtown, and continued reprising Legolas in later Tolkien adaptations. Although his career evolved in different directions over time, Will Turner remains one of his signature performances. Keira Knightley portrayed Elizabeth Swann, a governor's daughter whose adventurous spirit refuses to accept the limitations placed upon women in 18th-century society. Before Pirates, Knightley had appeared in smaller productions, including Bend It Like Beckham, which brought her international recognition. Pirates provided her first major blockbuster role and introduced her to audiences worldwide. Knightley infused Elizabeth with intelligence, courage, determination, and emotional depth. Rather than serving merely as a traditional damsel in distress, Elizabeth repeatedly demonstrates resourcefulness and bravery. She manipulates dangerous situations, negotiates with pirates, survives impossible circumstances, and ultimately becomes an active participant in the adventure rather than simply waiting to be rescued. This modern interpretation helped distinguish the film from older pirate stories and gave younger audiences a strong female protagonist. The success of Pirates significantly elevated Knightley's career. She soon starred in acclaimed productions such as Pride and Prejudice, Atonement, The Duchess, Anna Karenina, and The Imitation Game. She successfully balanced large commercial productions with prestigious historical dramas, earning multiple Academy Award nominations while remaining closely associated with Elizabeth Swann throughout the franchise. Geoffrey Rush delivered one of the film's finest performances as Captain Hector Barbossa. By the time Pirates entered production, Rush was already one of Australia's most respected actors. He had won the Academy Award for Best Actor for Shine and earned widespread praise for films such as Shakespeare in Love and Quills. His theatrical experience gave Barbossa extraordinary presence, combining intelligence, menace, humor, and unexpected elegance. Rush portrayed Barbossa as far more than a stereotypical villain. Although ruthless and intimidating, the curse preventing him from experiencing pleasure or satisfaction created sympathy beneath his threatening exterior. His sophisticated dialogue, commanding voice, and subtle humor made Barbossa one of modern cinema's most memorable antagonists. The rivalry between Barbossa and Jack Sparrow became one of the franchise's greatest strengths, largely because Rush matched Depp's unpredictable energy scene for scene. When Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl arrived in theaters in the summer of 2003, it accomplished something that very few films had managed to do. It revived an entire genre that Hollywood had largely abandoned for decades. Pirate films had earned a reputation for being commercial failures, with several expensive productions underperforming at the box office during the 20th century. Studios believed audiences no longer had an interest in swashbuckling adventures filled with sailing ships, hidden treasure, sword fights, and Caribbean legends. The success of Pirates of the Caribbean completely changed that perception, proving that with the right combination of storytelling, visual effects, humor, and unforgettable characters, even a supposedly outdated genre could become one of the biggest cinematic events of the modern era. One of the film's greatest cultural achievements was transforming pirates from historical figures into modern pop culture icons once again. While pirates had always existed in literature and cinema through classics like Treasure Island and Captain Blood, they had largely disappeared from mainstream entertainment by the late 20th century. After the release of The Curse of the Black Pearl, pirate imagery became fashionable again. Tricorn hats, long coats, treasure maps, pirate flags, cutlasses, and sailing ships suddenly appeared everywhere, from Halloween costumes to toys, video games, clothing, and advertising campaigns. Pirate-themed parties became increasingly popular, and children around the world once again imagined themselves searching for hidden treasure across mysterious islands. Perhaps no character influenced popular culture more than Captain Jack Sparrow. Johnny Depp's unique performance quickly became one of the most recognizable character portrayals in film history. His unusual walk, slurred speech, exaggerated hand gestures, clever improvisation, and constant ability to escape impossible situations made him instantly memorable. Unlike traditional action heroes who relied on strength and bravery, Jack often survived through intelligence, deception, luck, and unpredictability. This made him refreshingly different from many leading characters audiences had grown accustomed to seeing. Jack Sparrow became a cultural symbol almost overnight. His appearance was imitated at costume conventions, theme parks, comedy shows, school performances, and fan gatherings across the world. Countless impersonators adopted his distinctive voice and mannerisms. Quotes from the character entered everyday conversation, especially humorous lines involving negotiation, freedom, rum, and impossible escape plans. His compass, which pointed toward whatever its owner desired most, became one of the franchise's most recognizable symbols and was frequently referenced in discussions about ambition and personal goals. The film also had a major influence on internet culture. During the rise of online video platforms and social media throughout the following decade, countless clips featuring Jack Sparrow spread rapidly across the internet. Fans created parody videos, edited memorable scenes into humorous compilations, and produced countless memes celebrating the captain's unpredictable personality. His expressions, reactions, and witty dialogue proved especially adaptable for internet humor, allowing the character to remain relevant long after the film's original release. Another important aspect of the movie's cultural significance lies in how it balanced comedy with epic adventure. Earlier pirate films often treated their stories either as serious historical dramas or straightforward action adventures. Pirates of the Caribbean introduced a much lighter tone, blending supernatural horror, fast-paced action, romance, comedy, and fantasy into a seamless experience. This genre mixture influenced many later blockbuster productions. Filmmakers increasingly recognized that audiences appreciated heroes who could be funny without undermining dramatic stakes. Many action-adventure films released afterward adopted similar formulas, combining humor with spectacular action sequences and emotionally engaging characters. The movie also demonstrated that fantasy could successfully coexist with historical settings. Although based loosely around 18th-century Caribbean piracy, the story incorporated cursed treasure, immortal skeletons, ancient Aztec legends, and supernatural mysteries. This combination appealed to audiences of all ages. Adults appreciated the historical atmosphere and complex characters, while younger viewers were fascinated by the magical elements. This broad appeal contributed significantly to the film's enormous international success. The Curse of the Black Pearl also represented an important milestone for Disney. Before its release, adapting one of the company's own theme park attractions into a feature film seemed like a highly unusual idea. Many critics questioned whether a ride without a traditional narrative could possibly inspire a compelling movie. The overwhelming success of Pirates of the Caribbean proved that recognizable attractions could serve as the foundation for original cinematic storytelling. This encouraged Disney to develop additional films based on its parks, including projects such as Haunted Mansion and Jungle Cruise years later. Although not every adaptation achieved similar success, Pirates established a completely new approach to expanding theme park intellectual property. The influence extended back to the original attraction itself. Following the film's success, Disney updated Pirates of the Caribbean rides around the world by incorporating Captain Jack Sparrow, Captain Barbossa, Davy Jones, and other characters into scenes that had existed for decades. Visitors who experienced the attraction after seeing the films encountered familiar faces integrated naturally into the classic pirate environments. This created a unique relationship between cinema and theme park entertainment, where each medium enhanced the popularity of the other. The film also reshaped public perception of pirates themselves. Historically, real pirates were violent criminals responsible for theft, murder, and intimidation across international waters. While the movie certainly acknowledged danger and violence, it presented pirates as adventurous anti-heroes driven by freedom rather than simple greed. The journey of bringing Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl to the big screen is one of the most fascinating production stories in modern Hollywood. At first glance, the project appeared to be an enormous gamble. The film was based on a Disney theme park attraction that had entertained visitors since 1967, yet the ride itself had very little narrative beyond scenes of pirates attacking Caribbean towns and searching for treasure. Hollywood had also developed a reputation for avoiding pirate movies after several expensive productions failed financially. Many industry experts believed audiences no longer wanted pirate adventures, making Disney's decision to invest heavily in the project seem unusually risky. The screenplay underwent numerous revisions before production officially began. The challenge facing the writers was transforming a simple amusement park attraction into a feature-length adventure with memorable characters, emotional stakes, supernatural mystery, and enough originality to avoid feeling like an extended advertisement for the ride. Rather than directly adapting the attraction scene by scene, the writers chose to treat the ride as inspiration, borrowing familiar imagery while creating an entirely original story. Several iconic moments from the attraction, including skeletons guarding treasure, prisoners attempting to lure a dog carrying prison keys, and pirates chasing townspeople, were cleverly incorporated into the film as respectful tributes for longtime Disney fans. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer played an enormous role in shaping the movie. Already famous for producing major action films filled with spectacle and energy, he believed the project could become far more than a simple fantasy adventure. Bruckheimer insisted that audiences needed memorable characters rather than relying solely on visual effects. His confidence helped convince Disney executives to support a larger budget, allowing the filmmakers to create elaborate practical sets, life-sized ships, and ambitious action sequences that gave the movie its authentic scale. Director Gore Verbinski brought a distinctive creative vision to the production. Rather than treating the film as either a straightforward comedy or a serious historical drama, he combined adventure, fantasy, horror, romance, and humor into a seamless experience. Verbinski wanted audiences to feel as though they had stepped inside an old pirate legend while still experiencing modern pacing and emotional storytelling. He paid close attention to balancing moments of suspense with humor, ensuring that the supernatural elements never overwhelmed the human relationships at the center of the story. One of the production's greatest achievements was the construction of the pirate ships themselves. Instead of relying entirely on computer-generated vessels, the filmmakers built full-scale ships that could actually sail and be filmed on the open ocean. The Black Pearl became one of the most recognizable movie ships ever created. Built upon an existing vessel and extensively modified, it featured dark sails, weathered wood, elaborate rigging, and an intimidating silhouette that perfectly reflected Captain Barbossa's fearsome reputation. The Interceptor and HMS Dauntless were equally impressive creations, each designed to visually represent different philosophies. The sleek naval ships symbolized discipline and order, while the Black Pearl embodied freedom, mystery, and danger. Much of the filming took place in the Caribbean, where tropical coastlines provided breathtaking natural scenery. Locations included the islands of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where lush jungles, secluded beaches, and crystal-clear waters created an authentic 18th-century atmosphere. Additional filming occurred in California, where specially constructed sets recreated Port Royal and other important locations. The combination of real tropical environments and carefully designed studio sets allowed the filmmakers to achieve both realism and complete creative control. Weather proved to be one of the production's greatest challenges. Filming on open water always presents unpredictable difficulties, including rough seas, changing winds, heavy rain, and shifting sunlight. Maintaining visual continuity between shots often required extraordinary patience, as clouds could dramatically alter lighting conditions within minutes. Cast and crew frequently spent long hours waiting for suitable weather before cameras could roll again. Working aboard large sailing ships also introduced logistical complications. Equipment had to be carefully secured to prevent damage from waves and constant movement. Camera operators, stunt performers, and actors often worked on unstable decks while maintaining perfect timing during sword fights and dialogue scenes. Even relatively simple sequences demanded careful coordination because every movement of the ship affected balance and camera stability. Sword fighting became another major focus during production. The actors underwent extensive training with professional fight choreographers before filming began. Orlando Bloom already possessed experience from his work on The Lord of the Rings, but additional preparation ensured that his fencing style reflected Will Turner's disciplined background as a blacksmith. Johnny Depp approached combat very differently, making Jack Sparrow's fighting style appear improvised and unpredictable. Rather than overwhelming opponents with strength, Jack relied on misdirection, environmental awareness, and quick thinking. This contrast between characters added personality to every duel. The famous blacksmith shop duel between Jack Sparrow and Will Turner required weeks of preparation. Every movement was carefully rehearsed to ensure both safety and entertainment. The sequence combined traditional swordplay with humor, environmental interaction, and inventive choreography involving carts, beams, hammers, wheels, and moving machinery. The result remains one of the most celebrated sword fights in modern adventure cinema. Perhaps the most groundbreaking technical achievement involved the cursed pirates. Whenever moonlight touched Barbossa and his crew, they transformed into living skeletons. Creating this illusion required cutting-edge visual effects that blended practical acting with digital animation. One of the greatest strengths of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, is the way it tells its story. While many adventure films rely purely on action and spectacle, this film carefully balances mystery, humor, romance, supernatural fantasy, and character development. Its narrative follows a traditional three-act structure, but it constantly surprises the audience by shifting alliances, revealing hidden motivations, and introducing unexpected twists. Every major event serves a purpose, allowing the story to flow naturally while steadily increasing both emotional and dramatic stakes. The film begins with a quiet but mysterious prologue that immediately establishes an atmosphere of danger and legend. A young Elizabeth Swann is traveling aboard a British ship with her father, Governor Weatherby Swann, when they discover a shipwreck floating in the Caribbean Sea. Among the survivors is a young boy named Will Turner. Elizabeth secretly discovers that Will possesses a mysterious gold medallion bearing an unusual pirate symbol. Fearing that British soldiers will execute him if they discover his connection to pirates, she hides the medallion for safekeeping. This simple decision becomes one of the most important moments in the entire story because it unknowingly sets every future event into motion. The narrative then jumps forward several years. Elizabeth has grown into the governor's intelligent and adventurous daughter, while Will Turner has become a highly skilled blacksmith respected for both his craftsmanship and integrity. Their childhood friendship has quietly developed into romantic feelings, although social class prevents either of them from expressing those emotions openly. Elizabeth belongs to the colonial aristocracy, while Will remains an ordinary craftsman with no noble status. This romantic tension provides the emotional foundation that supports the larger adventure. The audience is then introduced to Captain Jack Sparrow in one of cinema's most memorable character introductions. Rather than arriving aboard a magnificent pirate ship, Jack sails into Port Royal on a tiny boat that slowly sinks beneath him just as he reaches the dock. The scene immediately establishes his personality. Despite appearing unsuccessful, Jack maintains complete confidence, dignity, and charm. His entrance tells viewers everything they need to know about the character without lengthy exposition. He is resourceful, adaptable, and completely unfazed by failure. Jack's arrival also introduces one of the film's central conflicts. His true goal is to reclaim his beloved ship, the Black Pearl, which was stolen from him years earlier by his former first mate, Captain Hector Barbossa. Jack's personal mission operates independently from the romance between Will and Elizabeth, allowing the story to follow multiple character objectives that eventually intersect. The first major turning point occurs when Elizabeth accidentally activates the cursed Aztec medallion by falling into the ocean while wearing it around her neck. The ancient gold emits a supernatural signal that is detected by the crew of the Black Pearl. That very night, Barbossa and his pirates attack Port Royal in search of the missing piece of cursed treasure. Their spectacular assault introduces audiences to the film's supernatural element while dramatically raising the stakes. During the attack, Elizabeth cleverly pretends that her surname is Turner, believing the pirates seek Will rather than herself. This misunderstanding drives much of the remaining story. Barbossa kidnaps Elizabeth, believing she possesses the bloodline necessary to break the ancient Aztec curse. Meanwhile, Will believes Elizabeth has been captured because of him and becomes determined to rescue her regardless of the danger. At this stage, the narrative begins pairing unlikely allies together. Will reluctantly frees Jack Sparrow from prison because Jack is the only person capable of pursuing the Black Pearl across the Caribbean. Their partnership becomes one of the film's greatest storytelling strengths. Will represents honor, discipline, and idealism, while Jack survives through deception, improvisation, and flexible morality. Their completely opposite personalities create both conflict and comedy throughout their journey. The middle portion of the film functions as an expanding adventure. Rather than moving directly toward the final confrontation, the heroes must first assemble resources, recruit allies, steal a faster ship, evade the British Navy, and locate Barbossa's hidden destination. Each sequence introduces new obstacles while simultaneously revealing more information about the characters and the mysterious curse. One of the story's most effective narrative devices is the gradual revelation of the Aztec curse itself. Instead of explaining everything immediately, the screenplay slowly uncovers its rules through conversation and visual demonstration. Audiences learn that Barbossa and his crew stole cursed treasure from an ancient Aztec temple. Because of this crime, they became immortal yet incapable of experiencing life's pleasures. They cannot taste food, enjoy drink, or feel physical satisfaction. Under moonlight, they appear as living skeletons, creating one of the film's most memorable visual surprises. This gradual revelation strengthens suspense because every new piece of information changes how viewers interpret earlier events. The curse transforms Barbossa from a simple villain into a tragic figure. Although ruthless and dangerous, his greatest wish is simply to become mortal again. His motivations become understandable even if his methods remain unforgivable. One of the reasons Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl has remained such a beloved adventure film is that beneath its exciting sword fights, supernatural curses, and thrilling naval battles lies a surprisingly rich collection of themes and symbolic ideas. While the movie can certainly be enjoyed as pure entertainment, it also explores timeless questions about freedom, identity, morality, love, loyalty, greed, mortality, and the price of personal choices. These deeper layers give emotional weight to the adventure and explain why the film continues to resonate with audiences long after its release. Perhaps the film's most important theme is freedom. Nearly every major character is searching for some form of liberation, although each defines freedom differently. Captain Jack Sparrow represents freedom in its purest form. He refuses to submit to governments, navies, social expectations, or even pirate traditions if they interfere with his independence. His greatest treasure is not gold or power but the ability to sail wherever he chooses aboard the Black Pearl. To Jack, freedom means controlling his own destiny, even if that life is dangerous and uncertain. This philosophy constantly places Jack in conflict with the British Empire, represented by Port Royal, Commodore Norrington, and the Royal Navy. The British authorities value discipline, order, hierarchy, and obedience. Ships sail according to strict rules, officers wear immaculate uniforms, and every citizen has a defined place within society. Jack exists outside that system. His appearance is untidy, his behavior unpredictable, and his loyalty belongs only to the sea. Throughout the film, this contrast symbolizes the eternal struggle between personal freedom and institutional control. Will Turner experiences a different search for freedom. Unlike Jack, Will has spent his life trying to fit into respectable society despite his mysterious past. He is trapped by expectations, believing his future is limited because of his social status and his father's reputation. His journey gradually teaches him that true freedom comes from accepting who he really is rather than living according to other people's judgments. By the end of the story, Will no longer fears his connection to piracy because he understands that a person's choices matter more than their family history. Elizabeth Swann's story explores freedom from another perspective. As the governor's daughter, she enjoys wealth and privilege, yet her life is tightly controlled by social conventions. She is expected to marry an appropriate gentleman, behave with elegance, and avoid danger at all costs. However, Elizabeth longs for adventure, excitement, and the opportunity to make her own decisions. Her fascination with pirates reflects her desire to escape the limitations placed upon women during the 18th century. Each decision she makes moves her further away from the carefully planned future others have chosen for her. Another central theme is identity. Many characters hide their true selves behind appearances, forcing audiences to question whether identity is determined by reputation, occupation, or personal character. Jack Sparrow is often dismissed as a foolish drunk because of his eccentric behavior. Yet beneath that appearance lies an exceptionally intelligent strategist capable of manipulating far stronger opponents. His seemingly careless personality often conceals careful planning. Will Turner faces the opposite problem. Society views him as an honest blacksmith, but internally he struggles with uncertainty about his heritage. Learning that his father was bootstrap Bill Turner forces him to confront difficult questions about whether blood determines destiny. The film ultimately argues that identity is shaped not by ancestry but by personal choices. Will becomes a hero because of his actions, not because of his family name. Captain Barbossa also embodies the theme of hidden identity. To most people, he appears to be a ruthless pirate captain driven by greed. As the story unfolds, audiences discover that his true motivation is escaping the unbearable curse that has robbed him of every human pleasure. His cruelty remains undeniable, but understanding his suffering transforms him into a far more complex antagonist. The film repeatedly reminds viewers that appearances rarely reveal the complete truth. Greed serves as another powerful theme throughout the narrative. The Aztec treasure symbolizes the destructive consequences of placing material wealth above morality. Barbossa and his crew originally stole the cursed gold believing it would make them rich beyond imagination. Instead, it condemned them to eternal suffering. Their inability to enjoy food, drink, warmth, or physical sensation illustrates the emptiness of wealth acquired through selfishness and violence. The curse itself functions as one of the film's strongest symbols. On a literal level, it provides the supernatural conflict driving the story. Symbolically, however, it represents the idea that every immoral action carries consequences. The pirates achieved unimaginable riches, but the reward destroyed their humanity. They gained immortality only to discover that eternal life without joy becomes its own form of punishment. The curse reminds audiences that some prices are too high regardless of the reward. Gold also carries symbolic meaning beyond its financial value. Throughout history, gold has represented power, ambition, and temptation. In the film, every piece of cursed treasure reflects humanity's tendency to sacrifice long-term happiness for immediate gain. The pirates' obsession with recovering every stolen coin illustrates how greed traps individuals in endless cycles of suffering. Instead of liberating them, wealth becomes their prison. One of the defining reasons Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl remains visually impressive more than 2 decades after its release is the extraordinary craftsmanship behind its cinematography and overall visual design. Every frame was carefully constructed to transport audiences into a believable 18th-century Caribbean world filled with danger, mystery, adventure, and supernatural wonder. Rather than relying solely on digital spectacle, the filmmakers combined practical locations, detailed production design, carefully planned lighting, sophisticated camera movement, and groundbreaking visual effects to create an immersive cinematic experience. The result is a film that feels timeless because its visual storytelling supports the narrative instead of distracting from it. Director Gore Verbinski approached the film with the goal of creating a world that felt grounded in reality while still embracing fantasy. Instead of presenting the Caribbean as a bright and carefree paradise, he emphasized its unpredictability. Beautiful tropical coastlines exist alongside stormy oceans, abandoned caves, dark jungles, decaying forts, and haunted waters. This contrast constantly reminds viewers that beneath the breathtaking scenery lies a dangerous world where death and adventure exist side by side. Cinematographer Dariusz Wolski played a crucial role in establishing the movie's distinctive visual identity. His photography balances natural beauty with dramatic atmosphere, using lighting not only to illuminate scenes but also to reinforce emotional themes. Throughout the film, bright daylight often represents civilization, order, and security, while darkness introduces mystery, uncertainty, and supernatural danger. This careful manipulation of light creates visual tension long before characters speak a single line. The opening scenes in Port Royal immediately establish this contrast. The British colony is photographed using warm sunlight, clean architecture, and orderly compositions. Buildings are symmetrical, uniforms are immaculate, and the environment reflects discipline and authority. Wide shots emphasize structure and organization, reinforcing the rigid social hierarchy that governs colonial life. Even the costumes contribute to this visual order through crisp fabrics, polished buttons, and carefully arranged hairstyles. When Captain Jack Sparrow first enters the story, the visual language changes dramatically. His arrival aboard a sinking boat is filmed with a combination of wide shots and medium close-ups that emphasize both the absurdity and confidence of his character. As his tiny vessel disappears beneath the water while he calmly steps onto the dock, the camera treats the moment with surprising dignity rather than ridicule. This visual introduction perfectly captures Jack's ability to transform failure into triumph through sheer confidence and personality. Camera movement throughout the film is constantly adapted to match the emotional energy of each scene. During quieter conversations, the camera often remains stable, allowing performances and dialogue to command attention. During sword fights and naval battles, movement becomes far more dynamic. Tracking shots, crane movements, and carefully choreographed handheld sequences create momentum without confusing the audience. Even during the most chaotic action scenes, viewers always understand where characters are located and how each event relates to the surrounding environment. One of the film's greatest visual strengths is its use of practical locations. Filming in the Caribbean provided authentic coastlines, tropical forests, cliffs, beaches, and open seas that could never be fully replicated on sound stages. The natural lighting, changing weather, and expansive ocean horizons contribute enormously to the movie's realism. Rather than appearing artificial, the world feels alive because real landscapes constantly surround the actors. Color plays a significant role in defining different aspects of the story. Port Royal is dominated by warm earth tones, clean whites, polished wood, and navy blue uniforms that symbolize stability and civilization. In contrast, the Black Pearl embraces darker colors including deep blacks, faded browns, weathered wood, and worn fabrics that reflect years spent sailing beyond the reach of authority. These contrasting color palettes visually reinforce the conflict between order and freedom without requiring explicit explanation. The filmmakers also make excellent use of natural elements to enrich the visual storytelling. Water appears in nearly every major sequence, constantly reminding audiences that the sea is both the setting and one of the story's most important forces. Calm waters often accompany moments of reflection, while rough seas foreshadow danger and conflict. Fire provides another recurring visual motif. Explosions, burning ships, lanterns, candles, and cannon blasts create dramatic contrasts against dark skies, emphasizing both destruction and survival. Perhaps the most celebrated visual achievement involves the cursed pirates themselves. Whenever moonlight touches Barbossa and his crew, their flesh disappears, revealing animated skeletons beneath. At the time of the film's release, these visual effects represented a remarkable technological accomplishment. Rather than presenting obvious computer-generated imagery, the transformations blend seamlessly with live-action photography. The skeletal pirates cast realistic shadows, reflect surrounding light naturally, and interact convincingly with physical environments. What makes these effects especially impressive is their restraint. The filmmakers reveal the skeletons only under specific lighting conditions, making each transformation feel meaningful rather than repetitive. Moonlight becomes an essential storytelling device as well as a visual effect. Whenever clouds pass across the moon or characters move between light and darkness, audiences witness the pirates shifting instantly between human appearance and skeletal reality. These transitions create constant suspense while reinforcing the film's themes about hidden truths and deceptive appearances. One of the most recognizable and celebrated aspects of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, is its extraordinary use of music and sound. Long after audiences leave the theater, many can still instantly recall its powerful orchestral themes, booming cannon fire, crashing waves, clashing swords, and the unmistakable atmosphere of life at sea. The film's soundtrack and sound design do far more than accompany the visuals. They shape emotion, establish rhythm, reinforce character personalities, heighten suspense, and immerse viewers in a world where adventure and danger exist around every horizon. Together, the musical score and sound effects became essential ingredients in transforming the film into one of the greatest adventure movies of the modern era. The musical score was composed by Klaus Badelt under the guidance of legendary film composer Hans Zimmer and his production team. Although Zimmer was not officially credited as the primary composer for the film, his creative influence helped shape the bold orchestral style that would later become closely associated with the entire Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. The resulting soundtrack combined traditional symphonic instrumentation with modern cinematic energy, creating music that felt timeless while remaining immediately exciting for contemporary audiences. The score's most famous achievement is its unforgettable main adventure theme. Built around powerful brass instruments, energetic string sections, and driving percussion, the melody immediately communicates movement, confidence, and excitement. Unlike many traditional heroic themes that celebrate noble warriors, this music possesses a playful swagger that perfectly matches Captain Jack Sparrow's unconventional personality. It feels adventurous without becoming overly serious, heroic without losing its sense of humor, and epic without sacrificing accessibility. One of the reasons this theme became so iconic is its versatility. Throughout the film, the melody appears in many different forms depending on the emotional needs of each scene. During moments of triumph, the full orchestra performs the theme with tremendous energy and confidence. During quieter scenes, fragments of the melody appear more gently through individual instruments, reminding audiences of the adventure that lies ahead. This technique creates musical continuity while preventing repetition from becoming predictable. The score also establishes clear musical identities for different characters and situations. Jack Sparrow's scenes often feature lively rhythms that emphasize his unpredictable nature. The music rarely behaves exactly as audiences expect, frequently changing tempo or instrumentation just as Jack himself constantly changes strategy. This musical unpredictability mirrors the character's personality, making even simple scenes feel entertaining. Will Turner receives a more traditionally heroic musical treatment. His scenes often feature strong melodic lines supported by noble orchestral arrangements that reflect his courage, honor, and determination. As his confidence grows throughout the story, the music accompanying him gradually becomes larger and more emotionally powerful, subtly reinforcing his development from ordinary blacksmith to courageous adventurer. Elizabeth Swann's musical material often blends elegance with emotional warmth. Early scenes involving Elizabeth contain graceful orchestration reflecting her aristocratic upbringing. As her adventurous spirit emerges, her music gradually incorporates stronger rhythmic elements that align more closely with the adventurous themes heard elsewhere in the film. This evolution mirrors her personal transformation from sheltered governor's daughter into an active participant in the adventure. Captain Barbossa receives darker musical textures built upon lower brass, deeper string harmonies, and dramatic percussion. His music reflects both authority and mystery. Rather than portraying him as a purely evil villain, the score suggests hidden sadness beneath his intimidating exterior. This subtle emotional complexity becomes increasingly important as audiences learn more about the curse affecting him and his crew. One of the soundtrack's greatest strengths is its careful pacing. The composers understood that non-stop orchestral intensity would eventually lose its impact. Instead, quieter passages allow tension to build naturally before exploding into powerful musical climaxes. During moments of suspense, the orchestra often becomes restrained, allowing silence and subtle atmospheric sounds to increase anticipation. When action finally erupts, the full orchestra enters with enormous force, making every battle feel significantly more exciting. The sword-fighting sequences demonstrate particularly effective musical storytelling. During the famous duel between Jack Sparrow and Will Turner inside the blacksmith shop, the score alternates between energetic action music and brief pauses that allow the sounds of clashing swords, spinning wheels, and moving machinery to dominate. Rather than overwhelming the fight, the music works together with the sound effects, creating an exciting rhythm that resembles an elaborate dance. The naval battles showcase another remarkable aspect of the soundtrack. Large orchestral passages accompany cannon fire, ship maneuvers, and dramatic confrontations, emphasizing the enormous scale of these conflicts. Brass instruments often imitate the power and grandeur of warships, while percussion reinforces the impact of explosions and heavy cannon blasts. The result is a musical experience that captures both the excitement and danger of combat at sea. Equally important is the film's exceptional sound design. Every environment possesses its own carefully constructed audio identity. Port Royal feels alive with conversations, horses, footsteps, market activity, distant seagulls, blacksmith hammers striking metal, and waves gently reaching the harbor. These subtle background sounds create the illusion of a thriving colonial settlement without distracting from dialogue. Once the story moves onto the open ocean, the soundscape changes dramatically. Wind constantly moves through sails and rigging, ropes creak under tension, wooden hulls groan against powerful waves, and seabirds occasionally break the silence overhead. The ocean itself becomes an ever-present character whose sounds remind audiences of both the beauty and unpredictability of life at sea. When Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl premiered in July 2003, expectations within Hollywood were surprisingly modest. Although Disney had invested heavily in the production, many industry analysts believed the film faced an uphill battle. Pirate movies had earned a reputation as financial disappointments, and adapting a theme park attraction into a major motion picture seemed like an unusual creative gamble. Some critics even questioned whether audiences would take the concept seriously. However, within days of its release, it became clear that the film had exceeded virtually every expectation. Positive audience reactions spread rapidly through word of mouth, critics praised its originality and performances, and the movie quickly established itself as one of the biggest cinematic successes of the year. The film opened strongly at the box office, attracting families, teenagers, adventure fans, and older audiences who appreciated its nostalgic connection to classic pirate stories. More importantly, it demonstrated remarkable staying power. Instead of experiencing a sharp decline after its opening weekend, ticket sales remained consistently strong as enthusiastic viewers recommended the movie to friends and relatives. This sustained popularity reflected the film's broad appeal across multiple generations. By the end of its theatrical run, The Curse of the Black Pearl had earned more than $650 million worldwide, making it one of the highest-grossing films of 2003. Considering the widespread belief that pirate movies were no longer commercially viable, this achievement represented one of the most significant surprises in modern box office history. Disney had not only launched a successful blockbuster but had also created an entirely new franchise capable of generating enormous global interest. Critics responded far more positively than many had anticipated. While some expected a simple family adventure based on a theme park ride, reviewers instead discovered an energetic, witty, visually impressive film filled with memorable characters and clever storytelling. Many praised its ability to combine action, comedy, fantasy, romance, horror, and adventure without allowing any single element to overwhelm the others. The balance of tones became one of the film's most frequently celebrated strengths. Johnny Depp's portrayal of Captain Jack Sparrow received overwhelming praise and quickly became the centerpiece of critical discussion. Reviewers consistently described his performance as bold, unpredictable, original, and unlike anything audiences had previously seen in a major blockbuster. Instead of portraying a traditional fearless pirate captain, Depp created a charming trickster whose eccentric personality constantly surprised viewers. His slurred speech, unusual movements, exaggerated confidence, and unconventional approach to danger transformed what could have been an ordinary supporting character into one of cinema's greatest modern icons. Many critics noted that Depp's performance elevated the entire film. His scenes frequently combined physical comedy with subtle emotional depth, allowing audiences to laugh at Jack's outrageous behavior while still admiring his intelligence and resourcefulness. Numerous reviewers argued that the character prevented the film from becoming a predictable adventure by constantly introducing uncertainty into every situation. Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley also received positive recognition for providing the emotional foundation of the story. Critics appreciated Bloom's sincere portrayal of Will Turner, describing him as a believable heroic figure whose honesty contrasted effectively with Jack Sparrow's chaotic personality. Knightley's Elizabeth Swann earned praise for avoiding the traditional role of a helpless heroine. Instead, reviewers highlighted her courage, intelligence, determination, and willingness to participate actively in the adventure rather than simply waiting to be rescued. Geoffrey Rush's performance as Captain Hector Barbossa attracted widespread admiration as well. Critics applauded his ability to portray a villain who was simultaneously intimidating, humorous, sophisticated, and strangely sympathetic. Rather than relying solely on menace, Rush gave Barbossa depth by emphasizing the frustration and despair caused by the ancient curse. His dynamic relationship with Depp became one of the film's greatest dramatic strengths. The screenplay also received considerable praise. Many reviewers admired its carefully constructed narrative, particularly the way it gradually revealed the mystery surrounding the cursed treasure while maintaining strong pacing throughout the adventure. Critics frequently observed that the script successfully balanced multiple storylines involving romance, supernatural horror, naval conflict, and personal redemption without becoming confusing or overly complicated. The action sequences earned similarly enthusiastic responses. Sword fights were widely praised for their creativity, choreography, and sense of fun. Unlike many modern action films that relied heavily on rapid editing, The Curse of the Black Pearl allowed audiences to clearly follow each duel, making every confrontation both visually exciting and dramatically meaningful. The famous blacksmith shop duel between Jack and Will was repeatedly identified as one of the highlights of the entire film. The visual effects also attracted significant acclaim. The skeletal transformations of Barbossa's crew beneath moonlight were considered groundbreaking at the time of release. Critics praised the seamless integration of computer-generated imagery with live-action performances, noting that the effects enhanced the storytelling rather than overwhelming it. Even viewers who were normally skeptical of digital effects acknowledged the impressive realism achieved throughout the supernatural sequences. The production design, costumes, cinematography, and musical score were likewise praised for creating an immersive and believable pirate world. Reviewers appreciated the detailed ships, authentic Caribbean locations, richly designed costumes, and energetic orchestral soundtrack that combined to establish a distinctive atmosphere. Very few adventure films have left a legacy as significant as Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. When it was released in 2003, it was viewed as a risky blockbuster based on a Disney theme park attraction. Within a few years, however, it had evolved into one of the most successful entertainment franchises in cinematic history. Its influence reached far beyond the box office, shaping filmmaking, inspiring future adventure movies, redefining Disney's approach to franchise storytelling, creating one of the most recognizable characters in modern cinema, and leaving a cultural footprint that continues to be felt more than 2 decades later. Perhaps the film's greatest achievement was proving that the pirate genre could succeed again. Before The Curse of the Black Pearl, Hollywood had largely abandoned pirate movies because several expensive productions during previous decades had failed commercially. Studios believed audiences no longer wanted stories involving sailing ships, hidden treasure, sword fights, and Caribbean legends. The enormous success of Pirates completely changed that belief. It demonstrated that the problem had never been the genre itself, but rather the execution. With memorable characters, exciting storytelling, strong humor, emotional depth, and spectacular production values, pirate adventures could once again become global events. The film also changed the way Hollywood viewed adventure movies in general. During the early 2000s, fantasy franchises such as The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter had already shown audiences appetite for large-scale world-building. Pirates of the Caribbean added another dimension by blending fantasy with historical adventure, supernatural mythology, comedy, romance, and action in equal measure. Many later blockbusters adopted similar formulas, attempting to balance humor and spectacle while creating charismatic characters capable of carrying multiple films. One of the movie's most lasting contributions to cinema is the creation of Captain Jack Sparrow. Few characters introduced during the 21st century have achieved the same level of worldwide recognition. Johnny Depp's performance completely redefined the traditional pirate archetype. Instead of portraying a fearless warrior who solved problems through physical strength, Jack relied on intelligence, improvisation, manipulation, charm, and extraordinary luck. His unpredictable personality made him impossible to classify as either a traditional hero or a conventional anti-hero. Jack Sparrow quickly joined the ranks of cinema's most iconic fictional characters. His appearance became instantly recognizable around the world. The braided hair, bandana, tricorn hat, beads, rings, kohl-lined eyes, weathered coat, and distinctive walk became symbols of the franchise itself. Costume designers, entertainers, comedians, and fans frequently recreated his look, making him one of the most commonly portrayed movie characters at conventions, theme parks, Halloween celebrations, and fan events. The influence of Jack Sparrow extended into character writing across Hollywood. After the film's success, audiences increasingly embraced flawed protagonists who combined humor with vulnerability. Many studios began developing heroes who relied less on physical perfection and more on personality, wit, and emotional complexity. The success of Jack demonstrated that audiences often connected more deeply with imperfect characters than with traditional invincible action heroes. The film also established a remarkably successful franchise. Following The Curse of the Black Pearl, Disney produced multiple sequels that expanded the mythology of the pirate world, introducing new villains, legendary sea creatures, mythical locations, and supernatural artifacts. Characters such as Davy Jones, Lord Cutler Beckett, Blackbeard, and Captain Salazar became major additions to the expanding universe. Each sequel further developed the lore while introducing new adventures for returning characters. Collectively, the Pirates of the Caribbean series became one of the highest-grossing film franchises ever created. Billions of dollars in worldwide ticket sales demonstrated the extraordinary loyalty of its global audience. Few franchises have maintained such consistent international appeal across multiple generations and continents. Children who first watched The Curse of the Black Pearl in 2003 eventually introduced the series to their own families, ensuring that its popularity continued well beyond its original theatrical release. The film's success also transformed Disney's long-term business strategy. Prior to Pirates, adapting theme park attractions into feature films had not been considered a reliable approach to franchise development. The overwhelming popularity of The Curse of the Black Pearl encouraged Disney to explore additional attractions as potential cinematic properties. While not every adaptation achieved the same level of success, Pirates permanently changed how the company viewed the relationship between its parks and its film division. The influence flowed in both directions. Disney theme parks around the world updated their classic Pirates of the Caribbean attractions by incorporating characters from the films. Visitors who boarded the original ride began encountering Captain Jack Sparrow, Captain Barbossa, Davy Jones, and other familiar faces integrated into scenes that had existed for decades. This unique combination of cinema and themed entertainment created a stronger connection between the films and the attractions than almost any other franchise. Merchandising became another enormous part of the film's legacy. Toys, action figures, replica swords, pirate hats, costumes, Lego sets, books, board games, trading cards, puzzles, model ships, clothing, jewelry, and countless collectibles reached stores worldwide. Jack Sparrow's compass became one of the franchise's most recognizable merchandise items, symbolizing adventure and personal destiny. Fans of all ages collected memorabilia, helping transform Pirates of the Caribbean into one of Disney's most profitable entertainment brands. Another important aspect of the film's legacy lies in its screenplay. Writers and filmmakers often point to The Curse of the Black Pearl as an outstanding example of blockbuster storytelling. Its carefully balanced structure, memorable dialogue, layered character motivations, and satisfying blend of humor, suspense, romance, and action continue to be studied by aspiring screenwriters. Many consider it one of the strongest adventure screenplays of the modern era because every major plot development grows naturally from character decisions rather than random coincidence. The film also helped redefine audience expectations for blockbuster entertainment. Viewers no longer wanted spectacular visual effects alone. Pirates demonstrated that memorable characters, emotional investment, and intelligent storytelling were equally important. Its success reminded studios that audiences respond most strongly to films where action supports character development instead of replacing it. Culturally, the movie revived worldwide interest in pirate history and mythology. Museums featuring maritime exhibits experienced increased attention. Books about the golden age of piracy became more popular, and documentaries exploring historical pirates reached wider audiences. Although the film presented a highly fictionalized version of piracy, it encouraged many viewers to learn about real historical figures such as Blackbeard and Bonnie, Henry Morgan, and Calico Jack Rackham. The franchise also inspired countless fan communities. Online forums, discussion groups, cosplay organizations, artwork, fan fiction, and tribute videos flourished across the internet. Fans debated character motivations, explored hidden details within the mythology, analyzed Jack Sparrow's strategies, and created elaborate theories connecting various events throughout the series. This level of engagement demonstrated how deeply audiences connected with the fictional world. Professional filmmakers have frequently acknowledged the influence of The Curse of the Black Pearl when discussing adventure cinema. Its ability to balance practical filmmaking with digital technology, combine multiple genres without losing focus, and maintain humor during serious situations became an important reference point for later productions. Many modern action-adventure films owe at least part of their storytelling philosophy to the success of Pirates. Even more than 20 years after its release, the original film continues to attract new viewers. Streaming platforms, television broadcasts, Blu-ray collections, and digital purchases ensure that each new generation discovers Captain Jack Sparrow's first adventure. Unlike many blockbusters that gradually fade from public memory, The Curse of the Black Pearl remains remarkably accessible because its emphasis on practical craftsmanship, strong performances, memorable dialogue, and timeless storytelling prevents it from feeling outdated. Perhaps the greatest measure of the film's legacy is that it transformed what appeared to be an impossible concept into one of the defining entertainment franchises of the 21st century. It revived an abandoned genre, launched one of Disney's most successful series, created one of cinema's greatest modern characters, influenced countless filmmakers, expanded into theme parks, merchandise, video games, and global popular culture, and demonstrated that creativity, bold performances, and exceptional storytelling could overcome even the greatest industry skepticism. The Curse of the Black Pearl is no longer remembered simply as a successful pirate movie. It is remembered as a landmark achievement that reshaped modern blockbuster filmmaking and secured its place among the most influential adventure films ever made. One of the most remarkable achievements of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, is the way it connected with audiences across different generations, cultures, and backgrounds. While many blockbuster films achieve commercial success for a short period before gradually fading from public memory, this film created a lasting emotional connection with viewers that has endured for more than 20 years. People did not simply watch the movie. They embraced its characters, quoted its dialogue, revisited its world repeatedly, and passed it on to new generations. Different audiences interpreted the film in different ways, yet nearly everyone found something meaningful within its adventurous story. For younger audiences, The Curse of the Black Pearl represented pure adventure. Children and teenagers were captivated by the exciting sword fights, mysterious treasure, haunted pirates, spectacular ship battles, hidden caves, and unforgettable characters. It offered an exciting escape into a world where every island hid secrets, every journey promised discovery, and every danger could lead to an even greater adventure. Unlike many fantasy films that relied heavily on magical creatures or distant kingdoms, Pirates presented a world that felt grounded in history while still allowing supernatural mysteries to exist just beneath the surface. Captain Jack Sparrow quickly became the favorite character for many younger viewers. Children admired his confidence, cleverness, humor, and ability to escape impossible situations. Unlike traditional heroes who won through physical strength alone, Jack often solved problems through creativity, quick thinking, and unexpected solutions. Many young viewers interpreted him as proof that intelligence and imagination could be just as valuable as strength or authority. Teenage audiences often connected strongly with Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann. Will represented the struggle to define one's own identity despite society's expectations. Many young people identified with his uncertainty about his future, his desire to prove himself, and his determination to follow his heart rather than simply accept the role assigned to him. His journey reflected the universal experience of growing into adulthood while discovering personal values and self-confidence. Elizabeth Swann became an especially important character for many viewers because she challenged traditional expectations without losing her humanity. Rather than remaining a passive character waiting to be rescued, Elizabeth consistently demonstrated courage, intelligence, leadership, and emotional strength. Young audiences appreciated watching a heroine who actively shaped the story through her own decisions instead of merely reacting to events around her. Many viewers saw Elizabeth as a symbol of independence and personal determination. Adult audiences often interpreted the film differently. While they appreciated the spectacular action and humor, many also recognized deeper themes involving freedom, loyalty, responsibility, ambition, morality, and personal choice. Jack Sparrow's constant pursuit of freedom resonated with adults who understood the compromises often required by careers, responsibilities, and social expectations. His refusal to surrender his independence represented a dream that many people admired even if they knew it was difficult to achieve in real life. Many viewers also appreciated the film's balanced portrayal of morality. Rather than presenting simple heroes and villains, the story encouraged audiences to examine each character's motivations. Barbossa committed terrible crimes, yet his suffering under the curse made him understandable. Commodore Norrington genuinely believed he was protecting civilization, even when his rigid thinking created injustice. Jack frequently lied, stole, and manipulated others, yet consistently demonstrated loyalty toward those he truly cared about. This moral complexity encouraged viewers to look beyond appearances when judging people. One of the most commonly discussed aspects of the film has always been Jack Sparrow himself. Different audiences interpreted his character in remarkably different ways. Some viewed him primarily as a comic figure whose eccentric behavior provided endless entertainment. Others believed he was actually the smartest character in the story, deliberately pretending to be foolish in order to make opponents underestimate him. Many fans enjoyed debating whether Jack planned every situation in advance or simply adapted brilliantly to unexpected circumstances. The fact that multiple interpretations remained equally believable became part of the character's lasting appeal. Another topic that generated discussion involved the relationship between freedom and responsibility. Jack represented complete personal freedom, living without permanent obligations or social restrictions. Will represented responsibility, discipline, and honor. Elizabeth gradually learned to balance both perspectives, embracing adventure without abandoning compassion or integrity. Many audiences interpreted the story as suggesting that true happiness comes not from choosing one extreme or the other, but from finding a balance between independence and responsibility. The film also resonated with audiences because of its optimism. Although the story involves curses, betrayal, death, and supernatural danger, it never becomes overwhelmingly dark or hopeless. Humor consistently interrupts moments of tension, reminding viewers that courage often involves maintaining hope even in impossible circumstances. This optimistic tone made the movie accessible to families while still satisfying adult audiences seeking emotional depth. Many viewers were surprised by how emotionally invested they became in characters they initially expected to be simple adventure stereotypes. Jack evolved into far more than comic relief. Will became more than a conventional hero. Elizabeth exceeded expectations as a female lead. Even Barbossa emerged as one of the most memorable villains of his era. Audiences appreciated that every major character possessed clear motivations, personal flaws, and meaningful development. Families often described the movie as one of the rare blockbusters that genuinely appealed to multiple generations simultaneously. Parents appreciated the nostalgic references to classic pirate adventures, while younger viewers embraced the fast-paced action, humor, and fantasy elements. As the years passed, nostalgia became another important part of audience reflection. People who watched the movie during its original theatrical release often describe it as one of the defining cinematic experiences of the early 2000s. Many remember seeing it with friends, family members, or during school holidays. Revisiting the film years later often brings back memories of a particular period in their lives, giving the movie emotional significance beyond its narrative. Younger generations discovering the film through streaming services have responded just as positively. Despite advances in visual effects and filmmaking technology, many new viewers continue to praise The Curse of the Black Pearl for its practical craftsmanship, memorable performances, and timeless storytelling. Rather than feeling outdated, the movie often feels refreshingly authentic compared to modern blockbusters that rely more heavily on computer-generated imagery. Film enthusiasts frequently interpret the movie as a perfect example of balanced blockbuster filmmaking. It succeeds because no single element dominates the experience. Humor never undermines emotion. Action never replaces character development. Fantasy never overwhelms realism. Romance never interrupts the adventure. Every component supports the others, creating a remarkably satisfying cinematic experience that appeals to many different tastes simultaneously. Perhaps the most enduring audience interpretation is that The Curse of the Black Pearl is ultimately a story about choosing the life one truly wants to live. Jack chooses freedom despite endless danger. Will chooses love despite social expectations. Elizabeth chooses adventure despite comfort and privilege. Even Barbossa's tragedy stems from choices driven by ambition and greed. Audiences continue to connect with these journeys because everyone faces moments where important decisions shape the course of their lives. More than 20 years after its release, audiences around the world continue to celebrate The Curse of the Black Pearl not simply because of its spectacular action or unforgettable characters, but because it reminds people of something timeless. It reminds them that life is meant to be explored, that courage often comes in unexpected forms, that true identity is determined by choices rather than appearances, and that the greatest adventures begin when individuals dare to follow the horizon instead of remaining safely in the harbor. That universal message continues to resonate with every new generation that discovers Captain Jack Sparrow's unforgettable first voyage. One of the greatest strengths of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, is its memorable cast of characters. While the film is filled with spectacular action sequences, supernatural mysteries, and breathtaking visuals, its emotional impact comes from the personal journeys of the individuals at the center of the story. Every major character experiences growth, change, or revelation throughout the adventure. Their motivations constantly evolve as they face difficult decisions involving loyalty, freedom, love, revenge, honor, and identity. These character arcs give the film emotional depth and transform it from a simple pirate adventure into a story about personal transformation. Captain Jack Sparrow is undoubtedly the film's most fascinating character. At first glance, Jack appears to be an irresponsible pirate whose only concern is reclaiming his beloved ship, the Black Pearl. He seems selfish, unreliable, and entirely motivated by personal gain. His eccentric behavior, slurred speech, unpredictable actions, and constant improvisation often make other characters underestimate him. However, as the story unfolds, audiences gradually discover that Jack possesses a surprisingly complex moral code hidden beneath his carefree exterior. Jack's primary motivation throughout the film is recovering the Black Pearl from Captain Barbossa. To outsiders, this may appear to be little more than a pirate seeking revenge or property. In reality, the Black Pearl represents far more than a ship. It symbolizes Jack's freedom, identity, and purpose. Without it, he is merely another wandering pirate. Reclaiming the pearl means reclaiming the life that was stolen from him through betrayal. Every decision Jack makes throughout the story ultimately connects back to this deeply personal goal. One of the most interesting aspects of Jack's development is that his personality changes very little on the surface while audiences' understanding of him changes dramatically. Rather than transforming into a completely different person, the film gradually reveals hidden qualities that were always present. Beneath his selfish appearance lies remarkable intelligence. Beneath his dishonesty lies surprising loyalty. Beneath his constant humor lies genuine courage. Jack repeatedly risks his own safety to help Will and Elizabeth, even when doing so provides no obvious personal advantage. Jack also demonstrates exceptional adaptability. Unlike many heroes who rely on carefully prepared plans, he constantly adjusts to changing circumstances. Whether negotiating with enemies, escaping imprisonment, surviving naval battles, or confronting supernatural pirates, Jack succeeds because he accepts uncertainty rather than resisting it. His greatest strength is not physical power but his ability to think creatively under pressure. By the film's conclusion, audiences recognize that Jack's apparent chaos often conceals careful strategy. Will Turner experiences the most traditional heroic character arc in the film. At the beginning of the story, he is a talented blacksmith living an honest but limited life within Port Royal. Although skilled, disciplined, and respected, Will lacks confidence regarding his place in the world. His mysterious past and uncertainty about his family history leave him struggling with questions about identity and self-worth. Will's love for Elizabeth provides his initial motivation. When she is kidnapped by Barbossa's crew, he willingly abandons the safety of his ordinary life to rescue her. This decision marks the beginning of his transformation. Throughout the journey, Will repeatedly places himself in dangerous situations because protecting Elizabeth becomes more important than protecting himself. His willingness to sacrifice personal safety demonstrates the depth of his courage long before he fully recognizes it himself. As the story progresses, Will confronts uncomfortable truths about his father, Bootstrap Bill Turner. Learning that his father was once a pirate challenges everything Will believes about honor and reputation. Having spent years trying to distance himself from piracy, he now discovers that his own bloodline is deeply connected to the pirate world. Rather than allowing this revelation to define him negatively, Will eventually understands that individuals are judged by their own actions rather than their ancestry. This realization represents the emotional heart of his journey. By the end of the film, Will has evolved from a skilled but uncertain craftsman into a confident hero capable of standing beside pirates, naval officers, and supernatural enemies alike. He embraces both his father's legacy and his own personal values, proving that honor is determined by character rather than social status or family history. Elizabeth Swann undergoes one of the film's most compelling transformations. At the beginning of the story, she appears to fit the traditional role of a governor's daughter living within the strict expectations of 18th-century colonial society. She wears elegant dresses, attends formal ceremonies, and is expected to marry Commodore Norrington, whose respectable position promises security and prestige. Yet beneath this refined exterior lies a restless spirit fascinated by pirates, adventure, and the unknown. Elizabeth's curiosity about piracy is established from the opening scenes, where she secretly keeps the Aztec medallion instead of surrendering it to British authorities. This decision reflects her willingness to question established rules when she believes compassion requires it. Throughout the story, Elizabeth consistently demonstrates intelligence rather than relying on others to solve her problems. After being kidnapped aboard the Black Pearl, Elizabeth refuses to become a helpless prisoner. She negotiates directly with Barbossa, studies her surroundings carefully, seeks opportunities to escape, and adapts quickly to unfamiliar circumstances. Her bravery becomes increasingly apparent as she survives encounters with cursed pirates, dangerous islands, naval battles, and life aboard pirate ships. Rather than waiting for rescue, Elizabeth repeatedly contributes to her own survival. Her emotional growth also deserves attention. Initially torn between social duty and personal desire, Elizabeth eventually realizes that happiness cannot be achieved by simply fulfilling society's expectations. Choosing Will over Norrington symbolizes her decision to pursue genuine love rather than comfortable security. By the conclusion, Elizabeth has become a far more independent and confident woman than the sheltered governor's daughter introduced at the beginning. Captain Hector Barbossa represents one of the most memorable villains in modern adventure cinema because his motivations extend beyond simple greed or cruelty. Initially, audiences view him as a ruthless pirate captain responsible for stealing the Black Pearl and kidnapping Elizabeth. As the mystery surrounding the Aztec curse unfolds, however, Barbossa becomes a far more tragic figure. The curse has robbed Barbossa and his crew of every physical pleasure. They cannot taste food, enjoy drink, feel warmth, or experience satisfaction despite possessing unimaginable wealth. His obsession with lifting the curse becomes entirely understandable even though his methods remain morally unacceptable. Geoffrey Rush portrays Barbossa as both intimidating and strangely sympathetic, allowing audiences to appreciate the tragedy underlying his villainy. Barbossa also serves as a mirror image of Jack Sparrow. Both captains desire the Black Pearl. Both value freedom. Both command loyal crews. Yet their choices differ dramatically. Jack ultimately values people above treasure, while Barbossa sacrificed morality in pursuit of wealth and power. Their final confrontation represents more than a physical battle. It symbolizes opposing philosophies regarding ambition, loyalty, and humanity. Commodore James Norrington experiences a quieter but equally meaningful character arc introduced as a disciplined naval officer devoted to law and order. Norrington genuinely believes that following rules protects civilization. Unlike many authority figures in adventure films, he is neither corrupt nor cruel. He sincerely wishes to protect Elizabeth and maintain peace within the British colonies. However, Elizabeth's rejection forces Norrington to confront the limitations of his worldview. He realizes that duty alone cannot control matters of the heart. Although disappointed, he accepts Elizabeth's choice with dignity rather than bitterness. His willingness to place her happiness above his own personal desires demonstrates genuine maturity and emotional strength. Governor Weatherby Swan functions primarily as the story's emotional anchor. His motivation is simple yet universally relatable: protecting his daughter. Although his social position sometimes blinds him to Elizabeth's true desires, his actions are consistently motivated by love rather than control. As events unfold, he gradually recognizes Elizabeth's independence and accepts that she must choose her own future. Joshua Gibbs serves as one of the film's most loyal supporting characters. His friendship with Jack Sparrow reveals another side of the famous pirate captain. Through Gibbs, audiences witness Jack's ability to inspire lasting loyalty despite his unpredictable personality. Gibbs represents trust, companionship, and the importance of friendship within the pirate world. His unwavering support demonstrates that Jack's relationships are built upon more than manipulation. Bootstrap Bill Turner never physically appears during the film, yet his presence influences nearly every major event. His decision years earlier to send the Aztec gold back to its rightful place after Barbossa's mutiny ultimately creates the entire conflict surrounding the curse. More importantly, his memory shapes Will's personal journey toward understanding his own identity. The relationships between characters also evolve significantly throughout the story. Jack and Will begin as reluctant partners who barely trust one another. Over time, mutual respect develops despite their completely different personalities. Elizabeth and Jack gradually recognize each other's intelligence and resourcefulness, creating an unusual friendship built upon shared adventure rather than romance. Will and Elizabeth strengthen their emotional bond through shared hardship, while Jack and Barbossa's rivalry reveals years of betrayal, resentment, and unfinished business. Perhaps the greatest achievement of the screenplay is that every major character enters the story wanting something different. Jack wants his ship. Will wants Elizabeth. Elizabeth wants freedom. Barbossa wants mortality. Norrington wants order. Governor Swan wants safety. As these goals collide, each character is forced to confront difficult choices that reshape their understanding of themselves and those around them. Ultimately, the character development in The Curse of the Black Pearl succeeds because it remains rooted in universal human experiences. Every character struggles with identity, loyalty, ambition, love, responsibility, or redemption. Their journeys unfold naturally through action rather than lengthy exposition, allowing audiences to witness personal growth alongside thrilling adventure. More than 20 years after its release, these richly developed characters remain one of the primary reasons why The Curse of the Black Pearl continues to captivate audiences and stands as one of the finest character-driven adventure films ever made. One of the defining visual achievements of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, is its remarkable costume and set design. Every environment, every article of clothing, every accessory, and every carefully constructed location contributes to the illusion that audiences have stepped into a living 18th-century Caribbean world. Rather than functioning merely as decoration, the costumes and sets actively tell the story. They reveal personalities, establish social status, communicate historical context, reinforce themes, and deepen the emotional atmosphere of every scene. The attention to detail displayed throughout the production remains one of the primary reasons the film continues to feel authentic and visually impressive more than 2 decades after its release. The filmmakers understood that creating a believable pirate adventure required far more than building ships and dressing actors in old-fashioned clothing. The world itself needed to feel lived in. Buildings had to show signs of daily use, ships needed to appear weathered by years at sea, clothing had to reflect individual personalities rather than simply historical fashion, and every object within the frame had to contribute naturally to the illusion of reality. This philosophy guided every aspect of the production design. Captain Jack Sparrow's costume is perhaps one of the most recognizable outfits in modern cinema. Unlike many traditional adventure heroes who wear clean, carefully designed costumes, Jack's appearance reflects years spent surviving at sea. Every layer of clothing tells part of his story. His long weathered coat suggests countless voyages through harsh conditions. His faded shirt, worn leather belts, mismatched fabrics, and patched garments imply a lifetime of constant travel and limited resources. Nothing about his appearance feels newly made or artificially assembled. The details of Jack's costume are especially significant. His braided hair decorated with beads, coins, feathers, and small personal trinkets suggests that he has collected memories throughout his travels rather than valuing expensive possessions. The numerous rings on his fingers indicate a man who appreciates symbolic objects more than wealth itself. His bandana serves practical purposes while also becoming one of his defining visual trademarks. The dark eyeliner around his eyes reflects both historical pirate traditions and his unconventional personality, giving his expressions additional intensity. Jack's accessories contribute equally to his characterization. His compass, unlike any ordinary navigational instrument, symbolizes personal desire rather than geographical direction. His sword appears well used rather than decorative, emphasizing practicality over elegance. Even the pistol he carries reflects the rough conditions of pirate life. Every item feels earned through experience rather than acquired for appearance. Will Turner's costume contrasts sharply with Jack's appearance. As a blacksmith, Will wears practical working clothes made from durable fabrics designed for physical labor. His clothing lacks unnecessary decoration, reflecting his modest social position and disciplined personality. Leather aprons, simple shirts, sturdy boots, and functional belts emphasize craftsmanship rather than status. As the adventure progresses, Will's appearance gradually becomes more rugged, symbolizing his transformation from ordinary craftsman into adventurous hero. Elizabeth Swann's wardrobe plays a particularly important role in illustrating her personal journey. Early in the film, she wears elegant gowns appropriate for the governor's daughter. Rich fabrics, carefully structured dresses, refined hairstyles, gloves, jewelry, and corsets visually reinforce the strict expectations placed upon women of her social class. These costumes are beautiful but restrictive, symbolizing the limitations imposed by colonial society. One memorable scene perfectly illustrates this symbolism when Elizabeth faints due to the tightness of her corset and falls into the ocean. While the moment functions dramatically within the story, it also serves as a visual metaphor. The restrictive clothing literally prevents her from breathing freely, reflecting how society limits her independence. As the story progresses, Elizabeth's costumes gradually become simpler and more practical. By the later stages of the adventure, her clothing reflects increasing freedom of movement and personal confidence, visually representing her emotional transformation. Captain Hector Barbossa's costume immediately establishes authority. Unlike Jack's deliberately chaotic appearance, Barbossa dresses with an almost aristocratic elegance despite his life as a pirate. His richly detailed coat, elaborate hat, finely decorated boots, and carefully selected accessories communicate both leadership and sophistication. Geoffrey Rush carries the costume with theatrical confidence, reinforcing Barbossa's commanding presence whenever he enters a scene. The contrast between Jack and Barbossa's clothing subtly reflects their different leadership styles. Jack appears unpredictable, improvisational, and unconventional. Barbossa projects discipline, confidence, and calculated authority. Without speaking a word, audiences immediately understand that these two captains approach leadership in fundamentally different ways. Commodore James Norrington's naval uniform represents another important aspect of the costume design. The immaculate tailoring, polished buttons, crisp white fabrics, ceremonial sword, and carefully arranged decorations symbolize discipline, order, and institutional authority. Every detail reflects the British Empire's emphasis on hierarchy and precision. Compared with the weathered appearance of the pirates, the Royal Navy uniforms create a powerful visual contrast between civilization and freedom. Governor Weatherby Swan's wardrobe similarly communicates status and responsibility. His elegant clothing, formal coats, powdered wigs, and luxurious fabrics establish him as one of the highest-ranking colonial officials. Yet despite his authority, his costumes avoid excessive extravagance, reinforcing his portrayal as a dignified public servant rather than an arrogant aristocrat. The supporting pirates each possess distinctive costumes that communicate individual personalities while maintaining overall visual cohesion. Torn fabrics, faded colors, patched clothing, missing buttons, mismatched boots, scarves, belts, and improvised accessories suggest lives spent constantly adapting to difficult circumstances. No two pirates appear identical, giving Barbossa's crew a sense of realism often absent from large ensemble productions. Equally impressive is the film's extraordinary set design. Port Royal serves as the primary representation of British colonial civilization. The town features wide streets, well-maintained buildings, military fortifications, elegant homes, bustling marketplaces, and orderly harbors. Every structure appears functional, historically appropriate, and inhabited. Shops contain believable merchandise, workshops display authentic tools, and public spaces feel genuinely alive with daily activity. The blacksmith shop deserves particular attention because it functions as both workplace and action set. Every hammer, furnace, anvil, wheel, chain, and unfinished weapon contributes to the environment's authenticity while later becoming part of the famous sword fight choreography. Rather than constructing a generic location, the designers created a fully realized workspace that naturally supports both storytelling and action. The ships themselves represent some of the greatest achievements in production design. The Black Pearl immediately establishes itself as a legendary vessel through its intimidating appearance. Its black sails, dark wooden hull, towering masts, worn rigging, and weather-beaten surfaces communicate years of dangerous voyages. Every section of the ship feels functional, from the captain's cabin to the gun decks, crew quarters, and rigging above. In contrast, HMS Dauntless and HMS Interceptor embody British naval precision. Their polished wood, bright sails, symmetrical construction, and immaculate maintenance symbolize order, discipline, and imperial power. The visual difference between naval vessels and pirate ships reinforces the story's central conflict without requiring additional dialogue. Isla de Muerta introduces an entirely different design philosophy. Hidden within towering cliffs, The treasure cave combines natural beauty with supernatural menace. Mountains of gold coins cover the cave floor, while ancient stone architecture hints at forgotten civilizations. Moonlight filters through openings above, creating dramatic contrasts between darkness and illumination. Every surface reflects shimmering gold, emphasizing both the irresistible temptation and terrible curse associated with the treasure. The cave's design also supports the film's supernatural elements. Weathered statues, crumbling stone walls, ancient carvings, and mysterious architecture create the impression of a place abandoned by history yet preserved through magic. The environment itself feels haunted long before the skeletal transformations reveal the curse. Attention to small details greatly enhances every location. Tables contain authentic maps, navigational instruments, bottles, candles, ropes, and personal belongings. Prison cells display rusted iron bars and worn stone floors. Governor Swan's residence features elegant furniture appropriate for colonial nobility. Even background objects contribute to the illusion of historical authenticity. Makeup design deserves recognition as well. The pirates appear sunburned, weathered, scarred, and exhausted from years at sea. Dirt, sweat, unshaven faces, and visible imperfections create believable characters rather than glamorous movie stars. Barbossa's crew looks genuinely dangerous because their appearance reflects harsh living conditions. The skeletal transformations required remarkable collaboration between costume designers, makeup artists, and visual effects teams. Every costume worn by the human pirates had to match precisely with the computer-generated skeletons revealed beneath moonlight. Clothing tiers, belt positions, hats, jewelry, and accessories remained perfectly consistent during each transformation, allowing the illusion to appear completely seamless. Color also plays an important role throughout the costume and set design. Warm earth tones dominate Port Royal, suggesting stability and civilization. Darker blacks, browns, and faded reds define pirate environments, reflecting hardship and freedom. Gold dominates Isla de Muerta, constantly reminding audiences of the treasure's seductive power. These carefully coordinated color palettes strengthen emotional storytelling while maintaining visual consistency across the entire film. Ultimately, the costume and set design of The Curse of the Black Pearl succeeds because every artistic choice serves both realism and character development. Clothing communicates personality before dialogue begins. Environments reinforce themes without explanation. Ships become extensions of their captains, while historical locations feel genuinely inhabited rather than artificially constructed. Together, these elements create one of the richest visual worlds ever seen in an adventure film, allowing audiences to believe completely in the extraordinary journey unfolding before them and ensuring that the world of Pirates of the Caribbean remains as immersive and unforgettable today as it was when it first appeared on screen. One of the most important reasons Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl has remained one of the greatest adventure films of the modern era is the exceptional quality of its screenplay. While audiences often remember the spectacular visual effects, thrilling sword fights, unforgettable music, and iconic performances, the foundation of the entire film is its intelligent script. The screenplay successfully combines adventure, comedy, romance, fantasy, mystery, horror, and action into a single, coherent story without allowing any one element to overpower the others. Every conversation serves multiple purposes, revealing character, advancing the plot, building suspense, delivering humor, or reinforcing the film's deeper themes. The screenplay succeeds because it never treats dialogue as simple exposition. Rather than having characters explain information directly to the audience, important details emerge naturally through conversations, disagreements, negotiations, and emotional confrontations. Viewers gradually learn about the curse, the Black Pearl, Jack Sparrow's past, Will Turner's family history, and the relationships between characters without feeling as though they are listening to lengthy explanations. Information is revealed only when it becomes dramatically relevant, maintaining curiosity throughout the film. One of the screenplay's greatest strengths is its ability to give every major character a unique voice. Each person speaks differently, reflecting individual personalities, education, social status, and life experience. As a result, audiences can often identify who is speaking even before seeing the character on screen. Captain Jack Sparrow possesses the film's most distinctive dialogue. His speech is unpredictable, filled with pauses, unusual word choices, misleading statements, philosophical observations, and humorous exaggerations. Jack rarely answers questions directly. Instead, he often responds with another question, changes the subject, or delivers a seemingly meaningless comment that later proves surprisingly insightful. This unusual speaking style constantly keeps both the audience and the other characters uncertain about his true intentions. Much of Jack's dialogue functions on multiple levels simultaneously. What initially appears to be nonsense frequently contains hidden meaning or subtle manipulation. He uses humor to distract opponents, avoids revealing complete plans, and often allows others to underestimate him through carefully chosen words. His conversations become verbal duels every bit as entertaining as the film's famous sword fights. Another remarkable quality of Jack's dialogue is its rhythm. His sentences frequently begin confidently before wandering into unexpected directions, mirroring the unpredictable nature of his personality. This conversational style reinforces the impression that Jack constantly improvises, even though many of his decisions reveal careful planning beneath the surface. The screenplay perfectly complements Johnny Depp's performance, allowing the actor to transform ordinary lines into unforgettable moments. Will Turner's dialogue provides a deliberate contrast. His speech is clear, sincere, respectful, and emotionally direct. Unlike Jack, Will generally says exactly what he means. His honesty reflects his disciplined upbringing and strong moral principles. Throughout the film, Will's conversations reveal his internal conflict between personal desire and social responsibility. As his confidence grows, his dialogue gradually becomes more assertive, demonstrating character development through speech rather than relying solely on action. Elizabeth Swann's dialogue also evolves throughout the story. Early conversations reflect the careful manners expected of a governor's daughter. She speaks politely, respectfully, and within the boundaries of colonial society. However, once the adventure begins, Elizabeth's dialogue becomes increasingly confident and independent. She negotiates directly with pirates, challenges authority figures, and expresses her opinions without hesitation. This gradual change mirrors her emotional transformation from sheltered aristocrat to courageous adventurer. Captain Barbossa's dialogue deserves particular recognition because it establishes him as one of modern cinema's most memorable villains. Unlike antagonists who rely primarily on threats, Barbossa often speaks with surprising sophistication, intelligence, and even humor. Geoffrey Rush delivers many of these lines with theatrical elegance, making Barbossa simultaneously intimidating and entertaining. His conversations reveal a man who values language almost as much as violence, frequently using elaborate expressions that reflect both education and experience. Perhaps the screenplay's greatest achievement lies in the dynamic conversations between Jack Sparrow and Barbossa. Their shared history creates dialogue filled with subtle references, old resentments, mutual respect, and unfinished business. Neither character wastes time delivering lengthy explanations because both already understand their complicated past. This allows audiences to gradually piece together their history through implication rather than direct exposition. Humor plays an essential role throughout the screenplay, but it is handled with remarkable discipline. Rather than interrupting dramatic moments, comedy usually emerges naturally from character interactions. Jack's unconventional observations, Gibbs' storytelling, Elizabeth's clever improvisation, and Will's frustration with Jack's unpredictable behavior create humor without undermining emotional investment. The screenplay understands that comedy works best when it grows organically from personality rather than existing as isolated jokes. Physical comedy is equally important. Many humorous moments contain very little dialogue at all. Jack's sinking boat introduction, his awkward attempts to maintain dignity under impossible circumstances, and his inventive escapes rely on visual storytelling supported by carefully timed dialogue. The marketing campaign for Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, is now widely regarded as one of the most successful promotional efforts in modern blockbuster history. What makes this achievement especially remarkable is that the campaign had to overcome enormous skepticism before the film's release. Disney was asking audiences to embrace a movie based on one of its own theme park attractions, while also attempting to revive a pirate genre that Hollywood had considered commercially dead for many years. Rather than hiding these challenges, Disney carefully designed a campaign that emphasized adventure, mystery, spectacular action, memorable characters, and high production values. By focusing on excitement rather than the film's unusual origins, the studio gradually transformed public curiosity into worldwide anticipation. During the early stages of promotion, Disney intentionally avoided presenting the movie as simply an adaptation of a theme park ride. Instead, advertisements introduced it as a grand cinematic adventure in the tradition of classic swashbuckling films. Promotional materials highlighted dramatic naval battles, mysterious islands, cursed treasure, supernatural pirates, and thrilling sword fights. The marketing emphasized that audiences were about to experience a completely original pirate epic rather than a feature-length version of an amusement park attraction. The theatrical trailers played a particularly important role in shaping audience expectations. Rather than revealing the entire story, the trailers focused on atmosphere and excitement. Viewers were introduced to breathtaking shots of massive sailing ships crossing the Caribbean Sea, explosive naval combat, mysterious caves filled with treasure, and glimpses of the cursed skeleton pirates revealed beneath moonlight. These striking images immediately distinguished the film from previous pirate movies and suggested that something entirely new was arriving in theaters. One of the smartest decisions made during the campaign was limiting how much of the supernatural storyline appeared in early advertising. The skeletal transformations of Barbossa's crew were one of the film's greatest surprises, and Disney wisely chose not to reveal every detail. Instead, the trailers offered brief glimpses of the curse, allowing audiences to recognize that supernatural elements existed without fully explaining them. This created mystery and encouraged viewers to discover the truth by watching the film themselves. As marketing materials evolved closer to release, Captain Jack Sparrow gradually became the campaign's central figure. Early advertisements initially presented Orlando Bloom's Will Turner and Keira Knightley's Elizabeth Swann as more conventional heroic leads. However, test screenings revealed that Johnny Depp's eccentric performance generated extraordinary audience enthusiasm. Disney quickly adjusted its promotional strategy, placing Jack Sparrow at the center of posters, trailers, television commercials, and magazine advertisements. This decision proved to be one of the most important marketing choices in the franchise's history. Jack Sparrow's unusual appearance immediately attracted attention. His braided hair, weathered pirate clothing, dark eyeliner, beads, rings, bandana, and confident expression created an instantly recognizable visual identity. Even before audiences understood his personality, they recognized that this pirate looked unlike any they had seen before. The official theatrical posters reflected the film's adventurous tone. Most prominently featured Jack Sparrow standing confidently in the foreground while ships, swords, treasure, tropical islands, and supporting characters surrounded him. Warm golden lighting contrasted with darker pirate imagery, suggesting that the film would combine exciting adventure with supernatural mystery. The posters successfully communicated scale, action, romance, and fantasy without overwhelming potential viewers with unnecessary detail. Television advertising further expanded public awareness. Short commercials emphasized explosive action sequences, humorous dialogue, spectacular visual effects, and Jack Sparrow's unforgettable personality. These advertisements appeared frequently during sporting events, family programming, and prime-time television, ensuring that audiences across multiple age groups became familiar with the upcoming release. Disney also made excellent use of its own corporate resources. Since the company owned both the film studio and the original Pirates of the Caribbean attraction, promotional opportunities extended beyond traditional advertising. Theme parks around the world celebrated the upcoming movie through merchandise displays, attraction updates, promotional artwork, and special events. Visitors already familiar with the classic attraction became naturally curious about the cinematic adaptation. Following the film's enormous success, Disney permanently updated the Pirates of the Caribbean attractions to include Captain Jack Sparrow, Captain Barbossa, and other characters from the movies. Although these additions occurred after the original release, they strengthened the relationship between the films and the theme parks, creating one of the most successful examples of cross-promotion in entertainment history. Merchandising became another major component of the promotional campaign. Action figures featuring Jack Sparrow, Will Turner, Elizabeth Swann, Barbossa, and members of the cursed pirate crew appeared in stores shortly before and after the film's release. Children could recreate favorite scenes using detailed toy ships, pirate weapons, treasure chests, skeleton figures, and collectible accessories inspired by the movie. Costumes quickly became some of the franchise's most popular products. Jack Sparrow's outfit proved especially successful because of its instantly recognizable appearance. Pirate hats, swords, compasses, jewelry, boots, belts, wigs, and makeup kits allowed fans to imitate their favorite characters during costume parties, conventions, theatrical performances, and Halloween celebrations. The popularity of these costumes continued for years, becoming one of the franchise's most enduring merchandising successes. Books, illustrated story adaptations, collectible cards, puzzles, model ships, calendars, posters, and clothing further expanded the movie's presence in stores. Disney understood that the film appealed to multiple generations, so products were designed for both children and adult collectors. High-quality replica props, including Jack Sparrow's compass and sword, became especially desirable among dedicated fans. The internet also played an increasingly important role in the film's promotion. Although social media platforms had not yet become dominant in 2003, official websites offered trailers, wallpapers, character biographies, downloadable images, behind-the-scenes content, and interactive features that encouraged fans to explore the world of the film before its release. Movie discussion forums quickly filled with speculation regarding the mysterious curse, the identity of Captain Jack Sparrow, and the significance of the Aztec gold. Entertainment magazines devoted significant coverage to the production. Articles highlighted the enormous ships built for filming, the challenging Caribbean locations, the groundbreaking visual effects, and Johnny Depp's unusual interpretation of Jack Sparrow. Interviews with cast members generated additional excitement by revealing humorous stories from production while carefully avoiding major spoilers. One of the campaign's greatest strengths was its emphasis on practical filmmaking. Promotional featurettes frequently showcased real ships, authentic Caribbean locations, elaborate sets, practical stunts, and detailed costumes rather than focusing exclusively on computer-generated imagery. This approach reassured audiences that they would experience a genuine adventure grounded in physical craftsmanship instead of relying entirely on digital effects. Word of mouth ultimately became the most powerful marketing tool of all. After the film opened, audiences responded with overwhelming enthusiasm. Viewers recommended the movie to friends, family members, and co-workers, praising its humor, exciting action, unforgettable characters, and spectacular visual effects. Positive audience reactions spread rapidly, helping the film maintain strong box office performance week after week. Many people who had initially been skeptical about a pirate movie decided to see it after hearing enthusiastic recommendations from others. Critics also contributed to the film's promotional success. Positive reviews highlighting Johnny Depp's extraordinary performance, the film's clever screenplay, and its entertaining tone appeared across newspapers, television programs, and entertainment publications. Disney incorporated favorable critical quotations into later advertisements, reinforcing the growing perception that The Curse of the Black Pearl was far more than a typical summer blockbuster. International marketing successfully adapted the campaign for audiences around the world while maintaining its central themes of adventure, mystery, humor, and fantasy. The universal appeal of pirates, treasure hunts, romance, and supernatural legends allowed the film to connect with viewers regardless of language or cultural background. As a result, the movie became a global success rather than simply an American blockbuster. Following the release, award season recognition provided another valuable promotional opportunity. Johnny Depp's Academy Award nomination for Best Actor generated renewed public interest and introduced the film to viewers who may have overlooked it during its original theatrical run. Additional nominations recognizing visual effects, sound, and technical achievements further strengthened the film's reputation for quality. Perhaps the greatest achievement of the marketing campaign was changing public perception before audiences even entered the theater. Disney successfully convinced viewers that Pirates of the Caribbean was not simply a movie based on a theme park ride, but a major cinematic event filled with unforgettable characters, spectacular adventure, humor, romance, and groundbreaking visual effects. Once audiences experienced the film, Their enthusiasm amplified every aspect of the campaign through personal recommendations and repeat viewings. More than 20 years later, the promotional strategy behind The Curse of the Black Pearl is frequently studied as an example of how effective marketing can overcome skepticism and transform a risky concept into a worldwide phenomenon. By emphasizing character, adventure, mystery, practical craftsmanship, and emotional storytelling rather than relying solely on spectacle, Disney created one of the most successful marketing campaigns in blockbuster history, launching a franchise whose popularity continues to influence cinema, merchandising, and popular culture today. Pirates of the Caribbean. The Curse of the Black Pearl occupies a unique place in cinematic history because it successfully combines elements from numerous genres while establishing an identity entirely its own. Although it draws inspiration from classic pirate adventures, historical legends, fantasy films, supernatural horror, and swashbuckling epics, it never feels like a simple imitation of earlier works. Instead, the film honors the traditions that came before it while modernizing them for 21st-century audiences. Comparing The Curse of the Black Pearl to similar films, earlier pirate stories, and the later entries in its own franchise reveals exactly why it became such an influential and enduring classic. Before the release of The Curse of the Black Pearl, pirate films had experienced decades of declining popularity. During Hollywood's golden age, pirate adventures such as Captain Blood and the Sea Hawk helped establish the swashbuckling genre. These productions featured heroic captains, elaborate sword fights, naval battles, and romantic adventures across the Caribbean. While enormously successful during their own era, these films generally portrayed pirates through a straightforward moral lens. Heroes were noble, villains were clearly evil, and stories focused primarily on courage, honor, and justice. Pirates of the Caribbean respected these traditions while introducing far greater moral complexity. Captain Jack Sparrow is neither a traditional hero nor an outright villain. He lies, steals, manipulates others, and frequently places his own interests first, yet consistently demonstrates loyalty, compassion, and courage when it matters most. This morally ambiguous protagonist represented a significant departure from the clear-cut heroes of earlier pirate cinema. The film can also be compared with Treasure Island, one of the most famous pirate stories ever written. Both narratives feature hidden treasure, dangerous pirates, shifting loyalties, and young characters discovering the realities of the pirate world. However, while Treasure Island largely focuses on the coming-of-age journey of Jim Hawkins, The Curse of the Black Pearl divides its attention among multiple protagonists. Rather than following a single hero, it allows Jack, Will, Elizabeth, and Barbossa to experience interconnected personal journeys that enrich the overall narrative. Another important comparison can be made with Cutthroat Island, a pirate film released in the mid-1990s. Despite featuring impressive action sequences and ambitious production values, Cutthroat Island became one of the biggest commercial disappointments in Hollywood history. Many industry observers concluded that audiences simply no longer wanted pirate movies. The Curse of the Black Pearl completely disproved this assumption. Instead of relying solely on traditional adventure, it blended comedy, fantasy, romance, horror, mystery, and memorable character development into a balanced experience that appealed to much broader audiences. The supernatural elements also distinguish pirates from earlier pirate adventures. Classic pirate films generally remained grounded in historical reality, even when dramatizing historical events. The Curse of the Black Pearl embraced fantasy by introducing the Aztec curse, immortal skeletons, mystical treasure, and ancient legends. These supernatural components expanded the possibilities of pirate storytelling without abandoning emotional realism. The magical elements supported character motivations rather than existing simply for visual spectacle. Comparisons with Indiana Jones are equally revealing. Both franchises center on adventurous heroes who encounter ancient myths, dangerous artifacts, and historical mysteries. Both combine humor with thrilling action while maintaining fast pacing and memorable supporting characters. However, Indiana Jones presents an academic adventurer driven by curiosity and historical discovery, whereas Jack Sparrow exists outside civilization entirely. Indiana explores the past through archaeology, while Jack lives within legends that remain very much alive. The Mummy, released a few years before Pirates, shares several similarities. Both films combine historical settings with supernatural curses, romance, comedy, and large-scale adventure. Both rely heavily on charismatic leading performances and practical effects enhanced by digital technology. Yet Pirates adopts a more morally complex approach to its characters. Even its villain possesses understandable motivations, while its hero constantly challenges audience expectations through unpredictable behavior. Comparing The Curse of the Black Pearl with the Lord of the Rings trilogy reveals another important distinction. Both franchises achieved enormous success during the early 2000s and demonstrated that audiences embraced ambitious fantasy storytelling. However, The Lord of the Rings adopts a more serious, mythic tone centered on destiny, sacrifice, and the struggle between absolute good and evil. Pirates, by contrast, approaches fantasy with greater humor, flexibility, and unpredictability. The stakes remain high, but the characters frequently respond with wit and improvisation rather than solemn heroism. The film also differs significantly from many modern superhero movies. Traditional superheroes often possess extraordinary physical abilities or advanced technology that separates them from ordinary people. The characters in Pirates succeed primarily through intelligence, courage, adaptability, and personal relationships. Jack Sparrow has no supernatural powers despite existing within a supernatural world. His greatest weapon remains his ability to think differently from everyone around him. Within its own franchise, The Curse of the Black Pearl is frequently regarded by both critics and audiences as the strongest installment. While later films expanded the mythology with increasingly elaborate visual effects, mythical creatures, and complex storylines, many viewers believe the original maintains the best balance between spectacle and character. The first film tells a relatively straightforward adventure while allowing every major character meaningful development. Later sequels often introduced additional plotlines, larger casts, and more complicated mythology, occasionally sacrificing emotional simplicity in favor of scale. Dead Man's Chest expanded the universe considerably by introducing Davy Jones, the Kraken, and deeper supernatural mythology. Many fans admired its darker tone and visual ambition, while others felt the story became more complex than necessary. At World's End delivered enormous naval battles and concluded major character arcs, yet its intricate political conflicts and mythology required greater attention from audiences. By comparison, The Curse of the Black Pearl remains remarkably accessible while still offering satisfying thematic depth. The film also influenced countless later adventure productions. Following its success, studios increasingly attempted to create charismatic anti-heroes capable of balancing humor with dramatic storytelling. Adventure films released during the following decade frequently adopted similar approaches, combining large-scale action with witty dialogue, ensemble casts, supernatural mythology, and morally ambiguous protagonists. While few achieved the same level of success, Pirates clearly demonstrated the commercial appeal of this storytelling formula. Another area where The Curse of the Black Pearl stands apart is pacing. Many contemporary blockbusters rely almost continuously on action, leaving little room for character interaction. Pirates understands that emotional investment strengthens action rather than slowing it down. Quiet conversations between characters provide necessary development, allowing later battles to carry greater emotional significance. This careful rhythm remains one of the screenplay's greatest achievements. Visually, the film also compares favorably with many later digital blockbusters. Because the production relied extensively on practical ships, authentic locations, physical sets, and real costumes, the world feels tangible even decades later. Modern audiences often remark that the film has aged better than productions relying almost entirely on computer-generated environments. The combination of practical craftsmanship and carefully integrated visual effects created a timeless aesthetic. Johnny Depp's performance also remains unique among cinematic protagonists. While many later films attempted to imitate Jack Sparrow's eccentric personality, few captured the same balance between comedy, intelligence, unpredictability, vulnerability, and emotional sincerity. Numerous filmmakers introduced quirky anti-heroes following Pirates, but Jack remains distinctive because every unusual behavior ultimately reveals something meaningful about his character rather than existing merely for comic effect. The film's treatment of female characters also deserves comparison with earlier adventure cinema. Elizabeth Swann is neither a passive romantic interest nor an invincible action hero. Instead, she develops naturally through intelligence, determination, adaptability, and courage. Her journey feels authentic because her strengths emerge gradually rather than appearing without explanation. Many later adventure films adopted similar approaches when developing female protagonists. The Curse of the Black Pearl also differs from many fantasy films through its restrained use of mythology. Instead of overwhelming audiences with endless magical rules, the screenplay introduces only enough supernatural elements to support the central story. The Aztec curse remains understandable, mysterious, and emotionally relevant throughout the film. Later fantasy franchises often introduced increasingly complex magical systems, whereas Pirates demonstrates that simplicity can often produce stronger storytelling. Perhaps the greatest comparison is with the Disney theme park attraction that inspired it. The original ride offered memorable imagery, pirate songs, skeletons, burning towns, and scenes of adventure but contained very little traditional narrative. The filmmakers transformed these scattered visual ideas into a complete cinematic universe populated by richly developed characters, emotional relationships, memorable dialogue, and compelling mythology. Rather than simply adapting the attraction, they expanded it into something far greater than anyone expected. Ultimately, The Curse of the Black Pearl stands apart because it achieves an extraordinarily rare balance. It honors classic pirate traditions while modernizing them for contemporary audiences. It combines fantasy with historical adventure without allowing either element to dominate. It delivers spectacular action without sacrificing character development. It embraces humor without undermining emotional stakes. It creates unforgettable heroes and villains while refusing to reduce them to simple stereotypes. More than 20 years after its release, it continues to be regarded not only as one of the greatest pirate films ever made, but as one of the finest adventure movies in cinematic history, setting a standard that countless films have attempted to match but very few have truly equaled.